Thank you so much, Pablo Delgado from Mirai, the boss of Mirai. Thank you very much for joining us. Usually the company and yourself are based in Spain, but you're now in the US. So thank you so much for joining us so early this morning. Okay. And so big news has broken overnight with regards to Google Hotel ads, this story we have on PhocusWire right now, but we thought it'd be interesting for someone who's been very kind of all over the world of metasearch and Google and online travel agencies for some time. We thought it'd be great to get your perspective on it. So, I mean, first of all, Pablo, if we can, I mean, from your perspective, what do you think is going on here? Is it a huge change to what they're doing, or is this just Google tinkering with things like they often do? Our perspective is that this is a fairly significant development.
Well, I think Google Hotel Ads comes from purely paid placement, right?
Yeah.
So to be there, you had to pay. You didn't have an option. But if you think about what usually Google does in the search result page, they have like a paid section and an organic or free link section below. And I think they're just moving hotel ads to the same philosophy, which is paid links on the top, free links on the bottom. So the idea is not that much to allow the big bidders to play, because it was becoming a purely major OTA place or major hotel site placement, such as Marriott or Hilton. The long tail was lagging behind. So I think this is an opportunity for all the hotel industry to be there without major pain, right? So it's an easy and smooth way of making both the ads and Google Hotel Ads results. They're pretty much the same. Yeah. Paid and free links below. So in that aspect, it makes a lot of sense.
It does make a lot of sense, but with any development in the ecosystem of how Google operates and how online travel agencies operate with regards to paid ads, someone inevitably loses out. So who do you think in this case, with this development, who does lose out?
Well, if you think that the paid results will be a few links, we don't know yet. I mean, so far we've been testing, and the first test, the first versions of the test, we saw a couple of links on the top, few links in the middle, and a few additional paid links at the bottom, right? But then now that the version that is today live is just 3 to 4 links in the paid section, and the rest are, let's say, organic. And in that aspect, probably the most competitive bidders bid will be on top, and that is, of course, Booking, Expedia,
sure,
another additional OTA, and maybe the direct if the hotel has deep pockets to bid, right?
Yes.
So in that aspect, I would say the ones to lose will be the second tier OTAs. That's just my first idea on top of my head. But to be honest, from my user perspective, I don't necessarily think that they did that. I mean, that they added that much value, because having 12 OTAs with the same price from a user perspective is kind of useless, right?
Yeah.
But however, if you think that the many users will find now the hotel website on the top first or second or third position in the organic links, that's fresh content. That didn't happen before, because many hotels didn't bid, and now they will be there without doing anything, just like in organic search. So I think the user gets a better experience. Major OTAs and the hotel direct channel, if they were bidding, they would be like a tie. I mean, they wouldn't lose, they wouldn't win. But long tail or second tier OTAs, they will struggle to get visibility from now. Yeah. But they can bid more aggressively. And of course, Google wants a much more competitive bid, so to monetize higher every click, right? So let's see what happens with the bid. This is still very early to know.
When we were discussing this last week, we were given prior notice of the story, and when we were discussing this around our team, we were wondering whether there is a scenario where actually those first 3 to 4 paid ads at the top are always going to be, depending on the territory, will always be from either one of those two companies. So, for example, you would have Booking.com and Priceline and Hotels.com and Expedia. So the same two companies dominating those four listings. Is that something that, given that is often the case when you see pay-per-click ads, it is those two companies and their various brands that are using that space? Do you sense that is a situation that will continue?
I kind of agree with that because they are different brands of the same company and they kind of compete with each other. But from an Expedia perspective, they don't care if the user goes to Expedia or Hotels.com, right? The same with Booking and Priceline here in the US. So the more placements that you could occupy, the more chances that you have to get the booking. But now you have only 4 places, so there are not that many. Let's see what happens. I don't think Google can differentiate between 2 brands because they belong to the same company. So let's see what happens. But maybe the user may face just 2 big OTAs, different brands, and the direct. But think again about what was going on in the ad section. The ad section was purely dominated by the OTAs. So you found a Hotels.com ad together with an Expedia ad, right? And the 3rd or 4th placement was the first organic link. So I think users are quite used to finding those results.
That's true.
So from a user perspective, I don't think it will be that disruptive. But from an advertiser's perspective, it is a huge change. So let's see what happens on what volumes we can expect, what happens with the beats, they increase, they decrease, what happened with the volume of the cannibalization between the two. Because there's a lot of things to measure from now on. This is what we're going to do.
One of the most intriguing parts of this, I think, Pablo, is the organic section and how that will be ordered. And the initial kind of feedback we've got from Google is not entirely clear. I just wondered how you see that working out, and how, in the same way for many, many years, 25 years now, 20 years now, people have been able to get exceptionally good at SEO to increase their organic listing. But we don't know quite so yet how this is going to be ordered. So that's going to be a new game for people to play almost.
Absolutely. And we'll now have a new trendy word, which will be the hotel ads SEO, right? Yeah. So it will be lots of consultancy firms and gurus firms like knowing what's best. No? To be honest, if you follow Google rules, and they are all the same. So what Google likes is good price compared to the others, right? So the competitiveness of the price. If you have a good price, you have more chances to be on top. If you have a good CTR, a good conversion rate, because a conversion rate, even in CPC model, a high conversion rate means a high satisfaction from the user. So conversion rate, CTR, price competitiveness, and of course the quality of your integration. Because as opposed to SEO in search, which is having a website, having a web server, which is, let's say, nothing. It's not rocket science, right? Having a good integration with hotel ads is a different story. So you need a good integrator company with a good, response time. It's not that easy. So you can start with a WordPress and connect to Google Hotel Ads, right? It's not that easy. So you have good technology, good price, good conversion rate, and good CTR. And if you get all that, chances are that you'll be on top. But it's still too early to know because Google never discloses this, and they will not this time again. So so far the results we've seen in the hotels we work with, they're always on top. But I've seen on the first position in many other hotels. So I don't know if Google is just testing a place in the first place to start with, to then later change it. It's, again, only Google knows.
Yeah, indeed. Let's go back to what you said at the beginning, Pablo, and that is, who potentially loses out? And you said, it's the OTAs that don't have the ability now to get into those top 3 or 4 paid for listings. The pressure on them now is going to be with their integration and through their SEO techniques to, as you say, appear in that kind of next layer. So their discipline is going to change completely to just paying for ads every now and again to going back. It's almost old school, isn't it, to go back to their kind of SEO play, right?
Yeah, I mean, the organic placements are open for all of them, right? So there will be a new race to be on top. Let's see what the rules are. What does, I mean, what each player does, right? But in the paid section, I think it'll be a lot of pressure for the bids to go up. So second tier OTAs will not throw the towel that easily, especially when they can break the price. They can undercut more aggressively to be on top. So there could be issues with parity. Many OTAs, they don't have the money to bid, but they can undercut. So let's see. I mean, which at the end, from a hotel's perspective, it is bad news, but from a user perspective, it is great news because users might get better prices because these OTAs want to get visibility and they don't have an option but to reduce even more the price, right? Which is something the hotels hate, right? But it's an ongoing. I mean, it's normal today. Yeah. Even that they don't like it, it's what's happening all the time, right?
Yeah. One thing that's another discussion that we had last week was, nothing is ever automatic when it comes to organic listings, but if the emphasis here is to provide a better experience for their users, do you think the actual hotel's website should be given an automatic place at the top because they are the provider of that particular service, a room, ahead of those that come below it in the organic listings, even if their site doesn't convert quickly and all those things that are excellent for SEO?
Kevin, I think Google is already giving a special placement for the direct. In the Google My Business, there's a website link that especially mobile, where the visibility is much higher. Yes. The placement for the direct is absolutely privileged. In the My Business, if you go to the organic section in hotel ads, from now on, they will have a chance to be for free, which is something that didn't happen before. So I think Google knows that the direct is unique in a way because there can be 20 OTAs, but it can only be one direct. And I think users value that, and Google is working on it. But at the end of the day, users, what I'm not sure is that users want to book direct because it's direct. Users want good information, good prices, and a sense of safe and that they're getting the best price for the same product. And to be honest, if you make a survey with a lot of people, I don't think many will say, I want to book direct because it's direct. I want to book in Expedia because I get a better price and it's a safe way to book and I trust Expedia. But to be honest, I don't care if I'm booking direct or not. I think hotels love saying that the users, my clients want to book direct. I don't agree with that. So if you have a good direct channel, you will have a lot of bookings. And today, you can get even more. But why direct? If Expedia does a better job than you or booking, and it's not, it's your problem. Do it better than an Expedia booking. And Google is giving you that opportunity and higher visibility.
Yeah. What does this mean for the wider hotel metasearch landscape? The two brands that obviously always come to mind are Trivago and Trip. And certainly Trip has been very vocal in recent years about the power of Google to, my word, manipulate things to its benefit, arguably. And, as I say, Trip has been very vocal about criticizing that. Well, what are they thinking now today as they see this and hear about this change? What are they considering their options to be next?
I think the metasearch industry has changed a lot in last years.
Yes.
And Google was the last player to join, and now is the dominant player. And it will be even more dominant, especially in Western countries. Now I'm not talking about Asia.
Yes.
So it will be kind of very similar to search again, where Google dominates 80% in many countries, and the rest is divided by Bing and local search players. I think metasearch will follow that trend, and Google will dominate 80%, and the rest, or 70, 75, it doesn't matter, depending on the country. Mm-hmm. And the rest will be divided by Trivago, TripAdvisor. TripAdvisor is now following a different strategy with TripAdvisor Plus,
correct,
which is quite interesting because it's a membership, and it is not charging the hotel, but the user, which in the US makes a lot of sense. I'm a little skeptical about outside the US.
Okay.
But Trivago, I don't know what they're doing. I know they're working hard, but I mean, it has to be tough to compete with Google, right? So I don't know if you see the stock market. Let's see. I mean, they have opportunities, but it probably is not easy, because if you are a pure meta search player and you have Google, why check 2-3 different meta search players if you're finding the same players, same prices?
Yes.
So Google is so natural because you find it in search, you find it in travel, in flights, you have everything. I don't know. I think they need to find something different.
Yeah. And, there's only so much their own brand, their advertising may be turned towards branding again. Trivago and its Trivago Man a number of years ago, and Kayak and Trip again. It's about people thinking about going to those places first rather than Google. But Google, as you say, has got this inherent advantage because it's so much higher up the funnel. So, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just going to say that in this pandemic especially, it has been a huge shift from desktop to mobile. I think the curve accelerated in the last 12 months. And in mobile, I think the experience is way more different, in a sense that in a desktop it was easier to type Trivago or TripAdvisor, but in mobile, you open the browser and you type directly there and you're searching in Google directly. Yeah. So I think the shift has accelerated too in Meta, because the device implies a different way of doing things, and we've seen in traffic going to websites, in bookings coming from the direct bookings coming from desktop moving to mobile in a much faster pace, right? So I think it will be not that easy to do what you just said, that to boost the brand, because in mobile it's not that easy to go to Trivago. It's so easy to start searching in Google, but you are in Google. Yeah, it's not easy to change to Trivago.
Two final points, if I may, then, Pablo. I mean, there has been some suggestion already that potentially this may be a move by Google. I don't know if this is something you can comment on, but it may be a move by Google just to take some of the pressure off it has receiving with regards to antitrust investigations and its dominance, because they're now saying, well, we're not going to take the money because it's going to be organic again. Do you agree with those assessments, or do you disagree?
Well, I can understand them, because in some aspect it can be scary that Google dominates that many things. I think the world is going to be controlled by a few companies in the digital ecosystem. And as a citizen, as a user, I don't particularly like the idea of being controlled by Google, by Amazon, by Facebook, or by Apple, right? So being a European, I have this DNA of trying to regulate things. Now that I live in the USA, I think that it's changing a bit. But if they are doing the best product and they are the best option for the user, and users value that, why should they, break the company down or push it to make things such as this? I think Google is doing what is best for the user, and they will always do that.
Yeah, interesting.
But sometimes it can be a little controversial, and that makes a lot of sense. Google is a huge company. So
last of all, some of the information that's come out with regards to this, back to the actual story, is that they want to make it better for hotels to load their rates and just improve that kind of process and things like that. It does beg the question, and this is purely speculative on a journalist's part, of course, it does beg the question at some point that they might actually buy into that kind of service by way of an acquisition of a vendor that does that. Is that something that you would see them perhaps considering, given this is something that they're giving so much attention to?
Well, I think this comes from the problem of onboarding hotels, especially the long tail hotels. And Google knows that it's not easy to work. It's easy to work with Hilton and Marriott, but it's not easy to work with 1,000 long tail hotels in Italy or Greece. So they have to find a way how to do it. I just read the note today. I was a little surprised. I don't know how they're going to do it. So we'll find out, but they are working on facilitating things. I today don't find a way except that they jump into the integration business in a way, but I don't know, through a channel manager, through commercial and very popular tools that long tail hotels use. But I have no clue if they have any plans.
Pablo Delgado, thank you so much for joining us so early in your morning to give us your perspective on this big story.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.